Welcome to the Whole Hog with your host, Michelle Hogg, the show where real conversations spark transformations. In this episode, Michelle is joined by self-love coach and author Angie Hawkins from rock bottom to radical self-love. Let's dive in.
Oh, good evening.
How are you?
I'm good. Well, good evening for me. Good morning for
Yeah, it's
you.
morning for me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I am really excited to have you on, Angie.
Yeah, me too.
And so you know yourself better than obviously me. So just introduce yourself, everybody, please, and just tell us all about Angie.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. My name is Angie Hawkins. I am a women's inner glow coach and the author and speaker of Running in Slippers.
I love that. That's what I thought because I was running. I was running late getting here tonight on time, and I thought I was like, I literally felt like I was running in slippers. So tell me a little bit about the running in slippers. Where did the title come from? Tell me a bit about that. That's good, interesting.
So the story about how the title came about is actually in the introduction of the book, so I will not give that away. But basically what running in slippers means, slippers is actually another word for flip-flops in Hawaii. So it actually means running in flip-flops. And the book is basically about a really train wreck period of my life and all the misguided attempts that I took to be happy because I was looking for things outside of myself instead of looking within. So running in slippers is basically a metaphor for life because, when you're running in flip-flops, it could be fun and playful and adventurous, but it can also be dangerous and scary and painful.
Yeah, you could trip over and land flat on your ass.
Yes. So that's what running in slippers is in a nutshell.
And that's amazing. And so, excuse me. So, how? What have you been doing since this book's actually been launched? Then, like, have you been doing book signings with that? Like, how's it all been going since the launch of this book?
Yeah. So the short version of the story is I published the book 3 years ago. And at that time, I had a corporate job. So the book and all the speaking events that I was doing was just a side hustle. So I really wasn't putting that much time and energy into it. And then a few months ago, I found myself in a really toxic situation in my corporate job. And in reflecting on that, I realized how misaligned corporate America was in general for me and who I am. So I quit my corporate job cold turkey. And that's when I started my coaching business. And yes, the author side has become more of a main hustle. And I'm focused on selling more books again and having more speaking events and, of course, building my coaching business.
Yeah, that's amazing. That must have been like a weird moment for you as well. Like that deciding, that defining moment for you to say, I feel like I've been in this toxic cycle with what I'm doing as a job. I don't want this anymore. This is not aligned. And then deciding to go for that.
Yeah. And just to be clear, because I think people have this misconception, they see me now and they see a confident person or like to have the, to be able to be the person to make that kind of decision. Just to be clear, that's not how I was born. And that's not even who I was 5 years ago. I didn't really start my healing journey in earnest until 5 years ago. And again, if you read my book, it was a total train wreck and you can see how misguided I was and who I was and what I was looking for in life. Because again, I was seeking things externally for happiness. But once I began the inner work and I started to have the self-respect, because that was part of my awakening in the toxic corporate job. I don't deserve to be treated like this. Also, I had developed my intuition and connection to myself. So I also have this fierce self-trust. So even though it was totally terrifying, I trust that I can figure things out because ultimately I'll drive a garbage truck if I have to make money. You know what I mean? So it's like I know how a business works because I've been in corporate America. I have a finance degree. So I've been to business school, going to run my own business now. And I think even if it's slow to start up, again, I can wait tables. I can do other things to make money. So it's just having that fierce self-trust and all of that relates to self-love. But my whole point is to say, like, these are things that I have developed within myself through my own healing journey, because to have that kind of like courageousness and self-trust and faith. Like, it does not come easy.
No, absolutely not. And what was the kind of healing tools that you were finding were good for you, Angie, when you first went on the healing journey? Because some people have either been on a healing journey, but it's a continuous thing, but some people have never even dipped their toes into healing. And so it can look different for so many people.
Yes. The thing about healing, and I think that's why, because I say I began my healing journey in earnest 5 years ago, because that's when I actually started working on me. Because I had started, because I'm 45, so I think I started healing, quote unquote, in my 30s, but it was like going to yoga or, going to like meditating or things like that, which I'm not knocking those things. They do have value, but a lot of those are based in something outside of yourself, because you're like, if you're going to, for instance, like a sound bath.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that's relaxing and good for your nervous system and all of that, but you need the sound bath to regulate your nervous system, where the truth is you can regulate your own nervous system without any other tools. So I think the reason my attempts were originally misguided is because I wasn't starting with myself first. Because once you have that in place, then yes, you can still go to the sound baths or whatever. And it's nice to have those external things, but you don't need them. But I think a lot of people's healing attempts are based in these external things.
Yeah, and that is true. And I think because if somebody's not too sure, like healing, what is healing? How can I heal myself? And it's like the look on the outside, because that's
Yes.
what we're always doing in day-to-day life. We're always looking for something or another. And yeah, and sometimes it is like the sound baths or the yoga or meditating or something along the lines that would get pulled to them to make them start on, some kind of downtime, I suppose, like that quietness.
Yeah. And I like how you touched on the external appearance of it, because I was just talking about the internal fact, but these healing circles or whatever, those even look better, because when you heal internally, a lot of time that means crying on the floor, or, it doesn't really look as good as like these other things.
It's definitely not. It's like healing can sometimes be a big fugly cry. Yeah. It's like you're
Yes.
not expecting that
Because that's a
at
lot of
all.
what my healing looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so good that it is. It's good to still go to things that aligned your body and your mind together, because it's getting the movement, it's making you do something. But yeah, it's when you start like going inside, that's when you're like, whoa, and
Yeah.
you can like hit a wall you weren't expecting to be like hitting at any point in time.
Yeah. So I think my overall point is it all starts within, whether it's internal or external healing. Because that's another thing. Once I started my earnest internal healing, I cannot tell you how many more people I would have strangers on the street come up to me and tell me I was beautiful, or even people that I know, they would be like, oh, your eyes are so bright, or you're glowing. So working on yourself internally actually also affects you externally. And again,
Yeah.
I didn't start my healing journey in earnest until I was 40. So this is in my 40s that I got more compliments on my external appearance than I ever had, even though I have more sun damage and wrinkles and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it is because you end up with like an you have an inner glow. You really do. When you
Yeah.
start, yeah, when you start kind of just loving yourself or loving the path that you're on and accepting. And I think acceptance is a massive thing, isn't it? Accepting.
Yes.
Then it's like it's almost like this release can happen within you, and it's like you glow, and people start noticing that. You start attracting.
Yeah, because that's why I call my coaching inner glow coaching, because it reminds me of the sun, because the sun is just there shining. But look at all the benefits. It helps plants grow, does all these things. So it's like not only are you shining in your own light, but the people around you are benefiting as well.
Exactly. No, I love that. And so what's with the coaching then? How's the coaching going for you? Because this is like, because it's like a learning thing as well, isn't it? And the whole business side of things. And yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because in corporate America, I just kind of had like my own like niche thing that I did, and I didn't have to worry about other aspects of the business. Whereas when you own your own business, you're doing the sales, the marketing, like everything. So it's been very jarring. And the funny thing is, when I quit my corporate job, I was like, oh, I'm going to have all this free time on my hands, but I'm working just as much, if not more, than I was before. But on that note, it's not exhausting because I used to be exhausted all of the time, and I don't feel that way anymore now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, it really does. It's like you don't realise until you be like an entrepreneur, you start your own business, you start doing your own company, and then you're like, yeah, I'll be able to like have a little coffee break whenever I want, go for a run, go to the gym and do whatever. And then you're like, I need an extra 5 hours on top of this day. That would be great.
Yes, that's exactly how it is.
And then you've got to learn all these marketing things and all these things that you're like, it's like having a whole brand new job in every different field.
Yeah, and I'm like watching YouTube videos and just trying to learn everything I can.
And so what is your coaching? Is it like a program that you run then? Is it like a programming thing or one-to-one? Like what are you doing with your coaching then?
Yes. So right now I have a program. It is called Shine from the Inside. So it's basically the end result is what we just discussed about having that inner glow. The main things I focus on are boundaries because I think a lot of women struggle with boundaries, and that is the primary way that we give away our power. And boundaries are the highest form of self respect. So once you learn to respect yourself, then that really shows up in every area of your life. Another thing I like to focus on is intuition, because I think that's another way that we give our power away because we ask for advice for everyone outside of ourselves. And even going back to healing modalities, a lot of people are into like astrology and psychics. And again, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you internally validate yourself first and then just use those to confirm. Because when you're tapped into yourself and your intuition, then your self-trust is solid and you don't need those things. It's just extra. So I like to focus on boundaries and intuition. And obviously we can work on whatever that person is struggling with. But those are the main two pillars of my program, because if you have those two things in place, then that's where your glow really starts.
Yeah. And I think as well as a woman, boundaries I think can be a very hard thing. Because if you've like all of a sudden, if you've been caring for people and you've always been putting other people first, because it's like it's a woman's prerogative. I don't know, it's how we're kind of brought up. We just look after
Yeah.
everybody else. It's a natural thing, isn't it? And so then putting boundaries in place at a certain point in your life feels a bit icky. It feels weird.
Yeah, and it's extremely difficult. I am not going to sugarcoat that at all, but just to let everyone know, I didn't even know what a boundary was until I was 35. I read a book about boundaries and I was like, it blew my mind because I didn't even know you were allowed to tell other people no. Like that was just a whole foreign concept to me. So, and I say that to say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Again, it's not easy. It is very hard. And I still struggle. I actually just had a situation over the weekend. I was on a podcast last week and we were talking about boundaries. And I was telling him basically what we were just saying, like, once you have boundaries, like it changes your life, which is true. And then I was like, yeah, my boundaries are so much better now, which they are. But this story just goes to show that growth is a journey, not a destination, because I had an experience over the weekend. I went to an event with a friend and we were in line waiting to get in, and we had already bought our tickets online earlier in the week. But we ran into this guy that I know from surfing, and I just know him. He's not a friend. I just know him. I know his name, and that's about it. So he was in line and he did not have a ticket, and the online ticket sales had closed. So he immediately leached onto me and he was like, well, let me try to get in with you guys. Can I hang out with you guys? And my brain was screaming no. But the people pleaser in me was like, yeah, because I just froze and didn't know what else to say. So in that moment, I made his discomfort more important than my discomfort. Did not feel good. And I knew that wasn't the right thing to do, but I didn't know what to say because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Luckily, the situation resolved itself because he didn't get in. But I took that as a lesson to be prepared the next time that happens. And I'm telling this story now. Number one, again, just because you have strong boundaries doesn't mean you have to be perfect all of the time. But also, this is just a cautionary tale. You also need to have a game plan, because my game plan prior to this weekend was, I'm just going to go with the flow and figure it out as I go. I think you need to have a game plan in certain situations, because there will be times you're caught off guard.
Oh, definitely things like that. And sometimes you say yes, and before you've even, you say yes and you're like, I've said it without even totally fully thinking about it, and now I've said it, and now I can't go back on myself, and now then you start making yourself feel even worse because you're having like this tug of war with your own self.
Yeah, and that's how you know, because it didn't feel right at all. So I knew it wasn't the right thing to say, but I was in the moment, I was just frozen.
Yeah.
But your body will always tell you.
Totally. And it's the same intuition as well, isn't it? Like the intuition, I love how that's your two solid pillars, because intuition is such a massive guide, but we sometimes again dull that down because of different circumstances as well. But intuition's a massive thing.
Absolutely. And I used to ignore mine all of the time, and I always found myself in unpleasant situations because of that. And I have never regretted following my intuition.
No, absolutely not. Once you kind of just open up and let it guide you, then yeah, definitely it's a massive thing. But it's nice that you're working with people to, like, you're using the natural things that they have inside them, and it's just showing you it's okay to use your intuition, use it for your strength, and it's good for the boundaries because it's so strong things to have.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, these things are inside of us. And again, it's nice to have the outside tools, but you don't really need them. You have everything you need. You just need to develop those skills. And that's another thing that turns me off about self-help sometimes, because sometimes it's sold as like, well, you need to fix this or you need to heal this. But things like boundaries or intuition, they're things you already have. You just need to express yourself and use them and develop them. So it's not even about fixing well, it is about changing, but in a way that's growing and developing yourself.
Yeah, it's not like you need fixed, because that's like a different way of
Yeah.
looking at it. Yeah, because it is a lot of the self-help things. It can make you seem like, oh, I have an issue with myself, like I'm bad, I've been
Yes.
doing this so wrong.
And you feed into that, because I used to think like, oh, something's wrong with me. So when I see these self-help things that were like feeding into that, then it just kind of reaffirms that negative belief.
I know, it really does. It really does. And whereabout are you just now then? Whereabout in the world are you, Angie? Again.
I live in Hawaii, which
And
is
so
another,
I was going
which
to
is
say,
another
I've not
reason
always
why
yeah.
no, I'm originally from Chicago. And that's also part of my journey, because I moved here again before I had started my healing journey in earnest. I was in my 30s. I thought I was healing because I was doing all these outside things. And at one point, I went to this motivational seminar with Tony Robbins. And again, I was reaching for him for motivation. And it did give me the motivation to move from Chicago to Hawaii. And I think my intention was in the right place, because I wanted to be happier and make my life better. But again, it was at a time where I was just reaching for all these external things to make me happier. And then when I moved here, it was funny because when I moved here, and I don't post on Instagram a lot, but I would post things like surfing or hiking, and everyone thought I was living the life. Some people actually thought I retired because I don't post about, because again, at that time I was working my corporate job, but it's like, I'm not posting about work because that's boring, right? I'm posting about like the one fun thing I did, in the past month. It was my highlight reel. So everyone thought I was living this like perfect life. And the truth is, when I first moved here, I moved here in 2018. I was miserable because I actually was able to keep my corporate job and move here and work remote. But there were all these management changes and a lot of people were getting laid off. So for the first year that I lived here, I lived in pure fear that I was going to get laid off. And this was 2018. So this is way before remote work was like the trendy thing to do. So I was so scared because I was like, if I get laid off, I am screwed because there just aren't a lot of corporate jobs here. And the ones that are just don't pay very well. And remote work wasn't very popular. So I was very concerned about my financial security. I had a really hard time making friends because the local culture here is very exclusive, especially to newcomers, because there's a lot of transient people who come and go. So locals don't want to get close to someone in case they just move away. And also, I'm a minority here, so people don't just welcome white people from the mainland freely. And I get it because there's still resentment about being acquired by the United States. So there were all these things that made it very difficult for me to make friends. So I'm stressed about work. I don't have any friends. And then as part of my move here, to prove that I was all in, I bought a condo immediately, which would have been fine. But then a month and a half after I bought it, so again, I had only been living here a few months. I had just bought this condo. It completely flooded. A shared pipe, a building pipe, because I live in a building, it backflowed into my bathroom sink and I was not home. So my entire condo completely flooded. Talk about an emotional breakdown. And this is on top of the work stress, having no friends. And then what else?
What is the universe trying to tell me right now? Like, really?
Yeah. Well, and that was just it because I had moved here to be happier and have a better life. And like, I was like, oh my God, I fucked up. Like, yeah. And then it gets worse. So there were other things that happened. Like my grandma died. I finally did make friends, but like one of them was really toxic. And then COVID happened, which like one of the main reasons I moved here was to enjoy nature. But with COVID, like the beaches were closed, the parks were closed, the hikes were closed, and it just felt so restrictive and isolating. And again, keep in mind, I really didn't have that many friends to begin with. And so then like the few friends that I did have, like everybody was being weird about contracting COVID. So I wasn't really seeing them. So that just kind of like threw me down another rabbit hole of depression and anxiety because I was like, I just felt so restricted and isolated. I still had the work stress, all the things. And then, so everything was closed except for the ocean because the state doesn't have jurisdiction to close the ocean. So I decided to take up surfing, and I had taken a surfing lesson the summer before. Even though technically businesses were closed, I was pretty confident that this person would be willing to give me lessons during the lockdown. And I was correct because he was. And he was married and his wife was from New Zealand. So on our first lesson together, he was telling me how his wife had moved back to New Zealand. And the story that he was telling me originally was it was because of COVID, because like healthcare is basically free in New Zealand. She thought it was safer, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, as we start surfing together, we become friends. And then he confides in me. He's like, well, she actually moved back to New Zealand because we're separating. And when she comes back, we're splitting up, moving on, etc. So anyway, friendship becomes a romantic relationship. And keep in mind, this is COVID. So everything's closed. I'm not hanging out with anyone else. And he is basically the only person, and we're hanging out every day. I never in my life have invested this much in one person, but because of the circumstances of everything being closed and not socializing, like that's just how it was. And it didn't seem odd at the time. Like it seems weird to talk about now that like I wasn't even seeing anyone else in my day-to-day life, but that's how it was back then. But anyway, 6 months later, his wife finally came back, and that's when he told me that they're not getting divorced. And he had never used the word divorce, and he threw that in my face. They had to stay married on paper for 2 more years so that she could get her green card. So that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because it's like I hadn't been happy for like the previous 2.5 years. And I actually left out the part in my journey to move from Chicago to Hawaii, catapulted that in 2017 was my boyfriend broke up with me and then my dad passed away. So I was like in all this grief. I was actually trying to make a change to make my life better. And then I moved here and it's like, not only was it not better, it felt like it was getting worse. So yeah. So talk about a total emotional breakdown. Ended up, I was taking medication for my anxiety. I feel like I always pronounce it wrong. I call it clonazepam. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's in a similar class as Xanax. So it's basically a nervous system suppressant. And it's so strong that I would usually just take a half pill before I went to bed, and a half pill would knock me out cold. So I had a brand new refilled bottle of 30 pills and I took all of them because I was just like, I just wasn't interested in participating in life anymore because it was too hard and I literally could not handle what was happening to me. And the worst part about it was just the sheer hopelessness because it's like things have not gotten better. And even worse, I didn't feel that they ever would get better. And like that deep moment of despair is something I would like never wish on my worst enemy.
But no wonder, like I'm just like, wow, it's like it's hard enough moving to somebody else, having all that happen to you just before you go. And then it's
Yeah.
like all these like different situations coming at you, especially being locked down. Like it must have felt so isolating. And like you said, and it's like looking back now, like so glad that, you know, you took the pills, but you're here today to be the most amazing, beautiful you know, and shining
Yeah.
your light. But it's in that moment, you know, when you're telling me that, it's like no wonder you must have felt just like so alone, like so alone, and everything was closing in on you, like all these different things. You're probably like,
Yeah.
what the actual fuck? Like just
Yeah.
like it must have been. And then so like what happened like after you took the tablets and stuff? I take it like did you bring them up? Like what? How did you?
So I was blacked out, but somehow I managed to text a friend and she took me to the hospital. It wasn't until I was released from the hospital that I realized that I was unconscious for a day and a half before I even arrived at the hospital. Because when I woke up in the morning, I thought it was the next morning. It was 2 days later. And I didn't find this out until I was released from the hospital. I turned on my phone and all my texts were like so confusing because I thought it was one day and it was actually another day. So I'm like, what are they talking about? Because one of my friends was like, I was supposed to go to her workshop, which I thought was that day. But I'm
Yeah.
reading her text the next day. She's like, are you okay? I thought you were coming to my workshop today. And her text was from the day before. And I was just so confused. I was like, what is she talking about? And then I saw the date and I almost had a heart attack. And I was still, when I was released from the hospital, I was still like totally high, but it was so shocking. But this is what happened. So that friend, I had some other texts from some other people, but because that friend was actually concerned about my well-being, when I got home, I called her and I wasn't going to tell her what happened because I was just embarrassed and I just didn't want to talk about it. I was high. I was still like highly emotional because that's a lot. Like, first of all, I was still in as much pain as I was before the pills. And then I had a new host of problems, you know, because
after having all that.
I can't even describe when I got out of the hospital for like a week, it felt like I was walking around without skin. Like I was just so sensitive to everything. But anyway, so this is my condition when I'm calling my friend. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to tell her what happened. But I was just so fragile and high and all the things. She was like, what happened? And I just like told her everything.
Yeah.
And in that conversation, I was like, I can't believe I didn't die because I was unconscious for a day and a half with the strength of those pills. I really should have died. And I expressed this to her, and her response to me was, it's not your time. And it gave me chills because it's like, okay, I'm here. A lot of people don't get second chances in life, whether it's self-inflicted or whatever. So I was like, okay, like, I need to find my purpose. And I also knew I needed help. So I called a coach. It's funny, he's actually a men's dating coach, but I had met him at a healing intensive and we were following each other on Instagram. And he doesn't, when I say men's dating coach, like, he doesn't teach pickup artist type stuff.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
teaches men to be better versions of themselves so that they attract a better person. So
yeah.
all of his messaging about being authentic and blah, 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 like, that just resonated with me so much. So I
Yeah, there's
reached out to him. Yes. And on our first call together, he was like, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? And keep in mind, like, this is like a week after I get released from the hospital. So I'm still like, my only goal of the day is just to make it through the day. Like, so I'm like hanging on for dear life, just having this conversation with him. But he asked me this question, and I had this idea for a book. And so that was the first idea that came to my mind. So I tell him, I was like, well, I want to write this book. It's a memoir. And I want it to be about the messy parts of my life because I feel like we're not really talking about that. And like, you go on Instagram and it's just the highlight reels. So I just want to write this really vulnerable book about what real life really is. And then
yeah,
I want to do these speaking events all around the world to talk about it, and then have these love tribes all around the world where it's like a safe place to be vulnerable and talk about real life. And so I'm telling him this, and then I stopped, and he was like, did you notice how lit up you just got over telling me about that?
you
And
can,
I could tell in my like state change, because again, like, going into the call, I was just like, okay, my only goal is to survive this call. But
yeah,
like, I actually, like, the light that had been dimmed inside of me, I like felt it again. So between my friend saying it's not your time and like feeling this light about this book, and again, life felt so fragile. I was like, I need a purpose. So that's when I started writing Running in the Slippers, because I'm like, I don't know where this is going to lead, but I need a purpose. And this feels really good to me right now. So this is what I'm going to do. And then
and that's amazing. And it was just, and even like you said, just reaching out, getting the coaching, and somebody just asking you that question that you didn't know your purpose was actually going to come out the back of that. Your light was going to overspill. It was just an idea, and then all of a sudden it's like, and she's back, and the purpose has arrived.
yeah, and going back to intuition, my intuition had been telling me to write the book and I ignored it. So, unfortunately, I had to have this rock bottom experience to trigger me to write the book. So, that's another reason I like to tell my story, because I really hope people don't get to rock bottom before they get help. I don't recommend that. So, I like to tell my story because you can feel when you're going downhill. So it's like, if you're going downhill, get help now. Like, whether that's for me or anybody else, I don't care who it's from, like, get help.
Yeah,
But because you don't have to get to rock bottom. And I never, again, I do not wish that on my worst enemy.
100%. And it is, it's like a lot of that is where a lot of comebacks happen, is when the rock bottom does happen, or
Yeah.
rock bottom for one person can be very severe, and rock bottom can just be like things just fall apart all at the one time, because everybody can handle different stages of like rock bottom. Some person, it could be a couple of things, and straight away that takes them out of the game. And other people are a bit more resilient, but then it's as soon as you see that,
Yeah.
and then just be aware, absolutely, because it's not a good place to be.
And all it takes is a decision. Because if you talk to or just hear about someone talking about how they've changed their life, the key part of any of those stories is decided to change. And again, for me, unfortunately, I felt like it was forced, but you don't have to have your hand forced. You can decide at any moment, like, which direction your life is going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It was like, wow, we're in charge of our own destiny and where we're going, and how much shit we're going to take, or when we're going to change direction. And it's just because it feels uncomfortable sometimes, and that's all it is. It's sometimes unpredictability or a bit uncomfortable. They're not too sure if they want to make that change and make that decision, but sometimes making that decision is like the best thing that you can ever do for yourself.
Yes. And this is how I look at it now, because I think people are afraid to make change because it's uncomfortable and all the reasons we tell ourselves why we don't want to change. But I would rather make a decision to change and that be uncomfortable than what happened to me, life forcing me to change, because that just feels beyond your control. And I feel like it's even more uncomfortable. So I'd rather make the choice myself and choose my own discomfort than have life choose it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when life chooses it for you, there's quite a few things that can come can come trip you up, definitely. And I know that exactly myself. And I wrote a novella as well, but it wasn't like it was at rock bottom. It was just after my granddad passed away. So it's funny when you always feel you said you get a wee nudge and you get a pull to do something. Sometimes there's like something happens and it's like a catalyst to make you just go do the thing.
And I
Because it was
think
my granddad
grief is
passing
a
away.
huge catalyst.
Yeah. It was like after my granddad passed away, because it was something that, it was like, wasn't expected. He had health problems, but it wasn't something that, just all of a sudden. And it was so weird. And it was just like it was like my intuition was speaking to me. My little inner voice was saying, I think you should do that. You don't have to take your time with it, but maybe you should do that. And it's funny, and sometimes you don't need to know where the end goal is or the end game. It's just the fun in creating and doing.
Yeah. And that's also something I'm learning. Like I learned it with the book Running in Slippers, because at the time I started writing it, I'm like, I don't even know where this is going, but I need a purpose. But even with quitting my corporate job and starting my own business, I'm like, I don't know where this is going, but I'm just going to try it. And once I opened myself up to that possibility, opportunities came out of nowhere. So you absolutely have to be open. There's a quote, I think once you start to walk the way appears, or something like that. I hope I didn't butcher it. But I think a lot of times we're waiting for something to happen before we start. But sometimes you need to be the one who starts to get the momentum going.
Yeah. No, I know, it's so true. It's so true. And I'm the kind of person as well, which luckily for me, I don't know why, I just have it inside me, but I always just jumping in, figure out what happens after. Do you know? Like even with this podcast, I was like, do you know, I think I'm going to do a podcast. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm just going to do it. And it's like, I didn't know the way, I just knew that I wanted to speak to people. I wanted to open up about conversations, and then all of a sudden it was just like the way started appearing, and the guests started coming, and it's like sometimes you don't have to know where it's going to go. It's enjoying the momentum when it's there and actually just seeing where it takes you.
Yeah, well, plus, because I think we were talking before, like that's one of the reasons what drew me to you, though, is because I'm scheduled to be on this one podcast. Like she sent me like this list of questions. She sent me like her rules for like what equipment I need to use, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I wasn't even excited about it. Whereas like where your podcast, like you're just kind of like, whatever, I'm just trying this out and we're going to have a conversation. Like, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. So I think you just end up, when you are like that, you just attract the kind of people that are meant for you.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And everybody that I've spoke to has been lovely. And it's so nice because isn't technology amazing? That now we can connect, like you're away in Hawaii and I'm in Scotland.
Yeah, we're like halfway around the world. It's like 12 hours apart.
And we're actually able to connect, and it's like, there's so many things now that I can look to you and go, oh, you do your coaching, or if I know something now with somebody else, I'll be like, Angie, she's the woman for you, get her book and different things, and it's these connections can be made and it's just magic.
Yeah. I like how you just use the word magic, because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it is. And again, you don't know who you're going to meet. It's like in the street sometimes, you can meet so many more people like this and connect than what you would if you were just walking down your own street,
Right.
And have like real conversation with people as well.
Yeah,
Like
I was
that
just gonna
don't
say that's what I love
know.
about it. Yeah.
Like having real connections and real conversations. Yeah, I think it's magic. And it's great how you have felt the fear and you're just going into this whole new, this whole new avatar that's you, like literally you're like, this is my passion, this is what I'm going to do. But just with your coaching and what you can do, it's like, I know that's probably speaking to you or us doing a podcast in like a year's time, how much change or growth and direction is going to be there.
I know. And I actually have a journal. It's actually a 5-year journal. It was actually a gift, but there's a thing for every day, but then there's 5 different sections for each year. So when you complete your first year, you're just writing in the journal. But now I finally crossed over where I started last year. So you can see the passage on this date from last year. And it's so like, I usually I reflect on my journey from like 5 years ago to now, which is huge. But even now that I'm visually seeing from just a year ago, the things that I was worried about, like I was worried about my job. And I was like, now it's not even a thing. Or I was worried about, because I surf and I like to progress in my surfing. So I was worried about like the surfing progression that's like is child's play at this
Yeah.
point. So it's
Yeah.
just so interesting how much we really can change in a year.
Yeah, and I think I love that with the journal thing, how it crosses over, because it's not until you probably start looking back. Yeah, the big events, you look back and you're like, well, I've definitely changed because that was like, whoa, into who I am now. But even just the smallest things to how you would even look at a situation. Like maybe like a year ago, if the same scenario or situation appeared in your life, the you today would totally respond to that so differently, compared to what you did before, and seeing that visually in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that must be so cool.
Well, especially like at the micro detailed level.
Yeah, I need to get myself one of them actually. That's a good thing. I'll start writing it up.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called. I can email it to you.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. And so what's the journey for Angie throughout for the next 6 months, like for the rest of this year, your wishes and hopes, and what you're hoping for the next, because this is us in our last 6 month stretch when you think about it. For the year, we're like the halfway point.
Yeah. So my first 6 versus second 6 is a huge contrast because it's basically corporate America versus self-employed. So yeah, I'm just ramping up my coaching business, trying to network and learn as much as I can. And honestly, I'm open to the possibilities. I used to be the kind of person that had to have everything figured out, but now I'm learning when your heart is open, you receive things that you weren't even expecting. It is good to plan though. I don't want to say there's no value in that. Like I do have goals and I am planning for certain things, but yeah, I'm just open to where the journey takes me.
I'm a go with the flow kind of gal as well. It's like I've got a couple of goals, but yeah, I'm a go with the flow. I like to just kind of see where life decides it's going to just start directing me all of a sudden, because then you are more open, aren't you? When you've got like, this is what I want and this is what I'm sticking to. But sometimes if you're just so much more open, then something comes along and you're like, oh, that's fun, let's try that.
Yeah. Well, even with my coaching program, I've seen recommendations like just have one program, don't customize it. And again, I do have like the boundaries and intuition, but everybody is struggling with something different. So I struggle with having a cookie cutter program for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like trying to be open to customizing as well. So just, yeah, I'm open to learning and exploring, even though.
Exactly. And I think just you having the two solid pillars is amazing, because everybody's journey is going to be different. So
Yeah.
it's adapting it, in that kind of way. It's adapting it in that way for people, which I think is really good. Having the two pillars that you can help other people pull that in because of your past experiences, what you've got now. So you've got your own story that you can then pull in and then probably relate to somebody else and say, oh, well, that wasn't my exact thing, but I can see where you're going with that and how I can kind of make that work for you, which is really special. It's pulling in your past.
Yeah. I think more people struggle with boundaries and intuition, but it's just I feel like we're talking more about boundaries now. I feel like intuition can still be on the woo-woo spectrum, but I mean, we all have it and it's amazing. So why not use it? And again, if I can develop mine, anyone can develop theirs. And that's another reason I tell my story, because if I can do any of these things, anyone else can.
I know.
Especially, like I said, like I started from like the lowest rock bottom. So if I can start from there and come back, you can start from anywhere and come back.
Start climbing back out again. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as your coaching, are you working on like group coaching, or are you doing like individual coaching? what are your plans with the coaching?
So right now I'm just doing individual coaching. As my books fill up, I might consider group coaching, but I just want to learn more about people and what everyone's struggling with, because I already am starting to see themes and things that people are struggling with. So eventually I might open up a group coaching program with like these related themes. So again, instead of like customizing all these one-on-one programs, I could probably group together some of these larger themes, but I'm just experimenting now with getting to know people and seeing what they're struggling with and seeing which one-on-one coaching programs work for them.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think the things at the moment? Is it like women? Is it mostly just women that you're going to be coaching, or is it for everybody?
Could coach anybody. I am focused on women though, because I do think women, as we were talking about before, like the biggest ways we give our power away is lack of boundaries and not using our intuition. But obviously, everyone can struggle with those. But yeah, I mean, I would be open to coaching anyone, but I am focused on women. I think, because I think, especially, and I noticed this a lot in a corporate America, because I worked in a very alpha male dominated
Yeah.
arena, and there's just like so many ways that we're dimming our lights, and it's like, why not just like step out into the world and be fully expressed? And I don't always feel like it's safe to do that, and again, because we don't have the boundaries to make it safe for us to do that. So I think we all should just shine our lights, because I'm a firm believer, especially since COVID, I think there's been a divide in the energy of the universe. And I think you can either contribute to raising the vibration or contribute to all the fear and other stuff that's going on. So it's like, let's shine our lights and contribute to raising the vibration of the universe.
Yeah, no, I'm all with you there. I'm all with you there, and that's why, like, if there's things like the news or anything that's on, like for me, like I do not pull myself into like looking at any of that or anything that's negative. I just like to stay in my bubble and just be and try and be the light, whatever that may be. Do you know, to pass on energy that's a good
Yeah.
exchange to somebody, because it's yeah, it's like we have to kind of just start being the light in the world, like you said. It's such a it's such a powerful thing. It's so needed right now. So many light torchers, people going about just doing their thing and helping that raise up. Yep.
Yeah, especially to your point, there's so much fear propaganda on the news, but ultimately we do have some control about how much we're consuming. I know you can't close off everything because it's there, but two things can exist at the same time. You can have fear propaganda being thrown in your face, and you can have the boundaries to be like, I'm not absorbing this. I'm going to shine my light instead.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I'm like, here it is. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible.
It's not easy, but it is possible. Definitely is. Oh
It is 9 a.m.
my goodness. It is
So I'm just
8
starting my day, whereas you're ending your day.
I know. It's amazing though. It's amazing having that connection. And what's the amazing plans for you today then? What's going on in your world?
What is today? So I actually have another podcast.
Oh,
And
amazing.
then I just have some like administrative. Yeah, thank you. I just have some administrative stuff to do. I shouldn't say just, because it is all very important, but
Yeah. But it's the boring stuff, let's be honest. It's the boring stuff that
yeah,
needs done.
it's mostly planning my week and making sure I'm on track to meet all my goals and
And doing
the
everything.
necessary stuff that may not be as fun.
Yeah, a lot of surfing in there. Gonna get a bit surfing.
Hopefully I have time to surf. I know, because you made a point earlier, like when you start your own business, you think you're going to have all this time to work out or whatever. I thought I was going to have more time to surf. And actually today, I don't even know if I'll have time, but we'll see. Hopefully. I do surf almost every day, but sometimes it's hard to fit in the time. Because part of my self-love practice is I do one thing a day that brings me joy. And I love the ocean and I love surfing. So my favorite thing to do that brings me joy is surfing. So I do try to do it every day. It's just not always feasible time-wise, because it's like a whole thing. You have to like put on sunscreen and get ready and go. So it's not always feasible to do time-wise, but I do try to do it.
That's amazing. That's really good that you stick to something like that every single day, because it's good for your mind, it's good for your body, and it's something that brings you just total joy to get you in alignment for the flow of your, for your business, for everything you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it does really, like, clear my head. Well, and the thing is, I used to have self-sabotaging habits that I did all the time, so all you have to do is replace those with self-love habits. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
all you have to do because it's a process, but just as we can get into those habits where you're constantly self-abandoning yourself or self-sabotaging yourself, you can get into the habits where, and that's how boundaries get easier, even though, again, it's a learning process, as I learned over the weekend. But that's how you can get in the habit of where just like setting a boundary, or for me, tapping into my intuition. It's not even something I have to try to do anymore. It's just a habit that I do.
And it's like, try to say to somebody, or what tip could we give for somebody who is needing to replace a self-sabotaging with a self-love? Like if they are trying to figure that out because they're needing to do that, what could be a little tip? What could you think to help somebody move through that?
So a lot of it depends on self-awareness, because you have to be able to identify when you're sabotaging yourself, because even those ways can be extremely subtle. So for example, I used to be the kind of person who, if I wasn't immediately good at something, I wouldn't continue doing it, which is another reason why surfing is so important to me, because I was horrible for a long time and I stuck with it. And that was like the first activity that I didn't self-sabotage by quitting, and I actually stuck with it. So the first thing is to just have the self-awareness to see when you're doing it, because it even shows up subtly, I think, in relationships, whether mostly romantic, but it can happen in friendships or family dynamics, where it's like if someone is getting too close, you push them away. The key thing is having the self-awareness to know when you're self-sabotaging yourself, and then work on being able to correct that behavior, because all of that stems from your internal beliefs, right? So my internal belief that I had to work on is I didn't think I deserved to be loved. So usually you have to peel back the layers on your habits to see where it's stemming from, and then work on fixing that internal belief. And then for me, by doing these things, like I do one thing a day, at least one thing a day that brings me joy. So then that reinforces the belief that I do deserve to be loved, because I do deserve to do one thing a day, at least one thing a day that brings me joy, because I deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be happy. So that reinforces that belief. So that's just the
I love
basic
that.
of it, but because it's a process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're inspiring me that I'm like, right, I need to do this one thing per day that brings me joy. Because actually, I
And
don't
it
do that.
doesn't even have to. Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, and I tell people this all the time, it doesn't have to be like I say surfing. And again, that's a process. Like I surf for at least an hour, and then to like get ready and go, it's at least a 2-hour event. But I also love to dance. So I like to dance for a few minutes a day. Like songs are usually only like what, 3.5 minutes long. So even if you just dance to one song and it's fun, like that's one thing that brings you joy.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that, and
So it doesn't
it's
even have to be this whole production.
like an extravagant thing. Yeah, because yeah, I listen to music. Like I listen to music all the time. Like music shifts my energy. It's a massive thing. But when I do like a bit dancing in the house, if I'm cleaning or doing the dishes, and it brings me, that brings me joy. Just you saying that, which thank you, because it's reinforcing that in me to say, if I can't get out to do, the big event that I want to do, if I go to the gym or going for a big walk somewhere or climb a hill, make sure I do the dancing, make sure I get the music on and make sure I do the dancing, because I love how you put that. It's so, so.
Well, and especially because you mentioned dishes, because I don't like doing dishes, but if I'm like dancing and listening to music, it makes it so much more enjoyable. Also, that made me realize how quickly it goes, because it usually doesn't take more than one song to do my dishes. And I'll procrastinate forever on doing the dishes. And then I'm like, it took 3 minutes. Like, what was I worried about?
That's it. And you can shake your bum at the kitchen sink at the same time and get right into it. That's so true. But yeah, I love when you said that, because I've been so busy, and I know things can bring me joy, simple things, but just us having that conversation has made me go, yes, I've been busy, but I need to keep making sure that I do the tiny little things to make sure I've got my joy every single day before anything else. It's so important.
Yeah. Well, and also you have a garden, right? Like even just going out in the garden and being mindful.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I do that every morning with my coffee, but I think that's part of my morning ritual. come into life.
But that's good, yeah.
Yeah, sit with my coffee in the garden and be like, okay, ready for this day.
But I see that as an act of self-love because you're actually like preparing for the day. You're doing something for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Have that little moment just to me, just to do my own thing, just to have my coffee and the peace and quiet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Self-love, love it. And I love your glasses, Angie. They're different from the last ones that you had.
Oh, thank you.
So cool. Love them.
Yeah, I'm known for my statement glasses.
Yeah, how many did you say you had before again? How many was it? Was it like 30 something?
I have a lot. Yeah, I would, if I had to guess, I would say 30.
That's brilliant. Love it. Love them. Well, thank you. Honestly, Angie, you've been an absolute breath of fresh air. You're so lovely. I've loved having this conversation with you. And I just wish you all the massive amounts of luck, momentum, and just good things coming your way now that you're doing this coaching that you're going on. You're going to be brilliant. Like the way you speak, passionate about things, you're going to do amazing. You're going to help a lot of people just feel connected to themselves again and get their inner light glowing. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, my Instagram is Angie Hawkins and my website is runninginslippers.com. It has information about coaching and my book on there.
Amazing. And where's the best place, for anybody to get your book?
The best place is probably Amazon because it's worldwide. I don't know how paperback works. Some countries you can order paperbacks on Amazon. It's available on Kindle on Amazon and pretty much globally. And then in terms of audiobooks, it is on Audible, but it's also wherever audiobooks are sold. So I know a lot of people listen on Spotify or Apple. So audiobook is also available everywhere. So I think Kindle and audiobook is global, paperback is limited.
Amazing. And did you do the audiobook yourself? Did you get somebody else to do it?
I did. Yeah, thank you for asking because I always forget to hype that up because I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks. So when I recorded mine, everyone was like, oh, everyone loves when the author narrates. So yes, I did narrate my own audiobook for those of you who like audiobooks and like author narrated audiobooks.
Amazing.
Which that was like a whole thing. Yeah, because it's harder than you would think to narrate an audiobook.
Yeah, definitely is. Actually try, well, I'm going to have to redo it again. But I done the same with mine, and it was like listening back to it. I was like, oh, so such a weird experience.
Yeah, actually, that was the hardest part, listening back to it.
I know, because you're like, is that what I sound like? Are people going to go, oh, that's so weird. It's such a weird experience. Well done.
But you got used to it after a while, right? Because after a while, I did get used to my own voice, but it took a while.
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was more like the different tones and the pitches. I was like, am I doing that right? I'm like, because then that's just the self, like the, oh, are you doing it right kind of thing. If somebody else was like, if we listened to each other, you'd probably be like, that was great, Michelle. And I'd be like, that was great. But I think when you were just listening to it, it's a weird experience. But mine was just a novella, so it was good. It wasn't too long.
I actually thought about trying that on Amazon.
Yeah.
The novella?
Yeah.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask you about that. I considered doing that.
Yeah, so there we go. Connected for a reason. And I love that microphone as well. I love the microphone. That's fabby. This one that you're using just now, that looks awesome.
What?
I love that it's going all the colours and stuff. I'm like,
thank you.
I was like, I need to get that mic. That looks better than my mic.
I know. You know what's funny? The colored one was actually cheaper, and I was like, that's fine with me because I like the color. I don't want the black.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I love it.
Only by a few dollars, but
it was worth the investment. Yeah, it's very cool. I like the setup.
Thank you.
So I'll put the links for your coaching, your books and everything that you've got so people can reach out and get in touch with you as well after I upload this.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on the podcast. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've loved having this conversation with you.
Yeah, likewise. I was really excited about this one, especially after our first conversation.
Yeah. And I definitely would like to come and do another podcast with you and find out how you've got on when the coaching starts, and basically just do another round of the podcast at a later date in life.
Yeah, we should do it like a year from now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be really cool. That's it. It's going in a diary, in a journal.
Oh yeah, I'll email you the information for that journal too.
Yeah. Send me the journal. Perfect. Well, have an amazing day, Angie, and thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. You've been an absolute diamond.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care. I'll speak to you later.
Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Give us a rating. We love your feedback. And thank you for supporting the show. See you next time on the Whole Hog.